Hello to the chicas, chess friends, welcome back. Here is another recap video of the Norway Chess tournament, and it's not because I intended to recap them, but because of very instructive stuff is happening, and so I couldn't help but dive in and have a good look at these two games that were played in round 8. Both of the games that I'm going to discuss, I will start off from the relevant position that I really wanted to touch upon, because yeah, that is what I really wanted to cover in today's video. Interestingly, there is a common link that keeps these two games together and make them a very unique example, and that is the presence of opposite colored bishops. And with that, we are going to jump right into the very, very tragic game of Arjo against Fabiano. Fabi had a very, very good game, equalized easily in the opening, and had the upper hand throughout the middle game all the way to the diagram position, rather, where it is white to move. Now, let's discuss about opposite colored bishops a little bit. The general truism, what you want to know about opposite colored bishops in any middle game or early endgame scenarios is that either they really cancel each other out in being equally useless, or perhaps more often than not, one of them proves to be a very useful tool, an asset in what that side is trying to accomplish. And since the other side, let's call them the defenders, cannot contest the challenges on the other person's bishop color, therefore it becomes a very uneven fight where it feels like one side is up a piece. If you look at the current position, this is a beautiful demonstration where it's crystal clear that white is really struggling very big time on the light colored complex. And of course, black has a light squared bishop. So once this bishop starts contributing in creating threats, white is going to be in a world of hurt. In strong contrast, the pawn structure is such that black, let's give it a different color, in particular these two pawns, deny the white dark squared bishop to be effective on this diagonal to create meaningful threats. Now, the position is still in balance, but it is because black's bishop is not well enough positioned in order to be that extra piece that black could add to the attacking formation. However, this was the critical position in the game, and things went seriously sideways, or I should say could have gone seriously sideways. Arjun played b5, which was immediately awarded a double question mark by the engine. And here, tragically, Fabiano missed a golden opportunity to immediately put the game away by the super spectacular pawn sacrifice d4. And what this move does is that it vacates the d5 square for the bishop, and or the e6 square, as you will see, because that is also a very dicey diagonal to go onto. Now, I'm 100% certain that Fabiano did consider the idea of d4, but most people, potentially, of course, including yours truly, I would discard it, because after, let's say, bishop takes d4, bishop d5 is not playable on account of the fact that it's hanging with check. And so this is no bueno, can't do. But what is super easy to overlook, and I'm going to flip the board now so that we see it from black's point of view, is that after bishop e6, there is a second checkmate threat lurking around here with rook h4. So queen e8 check is forced, king h7, and now white must find a response to rook takes h4. And there is none to be had. If I move the rook, which is one of the main culprits in the position, because if the rook was elsewhere, then of course I could get out of the mate. So let me show you the mate. So it looks like check, takes, and checkmate. And so white needs to stop this. And if I do that by moving, let's say move the rook to d4, there are multiple winning ideas available for black, but the prettiest is rook takes d4. Eliminating the defender of the f2 pawn, and now an entirely different checkmate pattern emerges rather unexpectedly. Whereas if I take the bishop, then queen takes f2 is still going to end in a checkmate. Basically what we need to see here is that after king back we first give a check. This is fastest, and then yeah, if king h2 then rook here, if king here then we can take and then ultimately play rook d2 and deliver a checkmate. Actually here now we have got also these moves available, so king h1, rook h4 is also a checkmate. So once again, from black's perspective now, from the beginning, d4, and there is nothing to be done against bishop e6 coming up next. Absolutely sensational stuff. And it was missed by both players. And what happened afterward was truly tragic. But before we go on to that, I need to show you something else. Because what you see here is a clearance sacrifice in order to accommodate the bishop's need to be on an aggressive diagonal. Guess what the coolest move is here to hold equality, the balance for white? Well, guess what? That's another clearance sacrifice, g4. And you just go like, wait a second, what is going on here? And you find out that after the most natural hg, we can play rook g3, queen f4, and here your engine will tell you that the extremely super cheeky king e2 creates an, for want of a better word, an unexpected Zugzwang, where the black pieces are really tied down. So let's see what is exactly what I'm talking about. Queen rook has to guard g4. Alright, so if I, let's say, play queen at a random, I can take g4. So that rules out pretty much any move by these two guys, right? The bishop has to guard d5, so I can't go to any of these squares. So the best I have is to pass here, but guess what? I can be a pest and kick that queen around a little bit, and all of a sudden the queen has run out of squares of guarding the pawn on g4, and the game is a draw. If, God forbid, I go crazy and I play f5 in order to relieve the queen and rook combo from the duty of guarding the g4 pawn, after bishop d4, now we go back to refer to what I said to you about the power and the discrepancy between the opposite colored bishops, one slicing, dicing, the other one shooting into thin air. And the roles have reversed. And now it's black defending against the dark squared threats, and there is nothing to be had here anymore. Queen h6, queen c8 check, king h7, queen f5, and although this is still likely to fizzle out to a draw, but good luck Chuck holding this now for black. And so yeah, the sensational clearance sack in order to activate the rock and to ditch, or rather get rid of with the diagonal threats and the full rank threats. Just absolutely divine stuff. The game ended in an absolute tragedy, and I have got very little to add to that. Black is consistently ahead. Here queen f5 with the idea of bishop d7 would have been very powerful. Yeah, just ahead. And then ultimately Fabiano started dropping the ball. It's still fine, it's still good. Check, bishop back, fine. And here he needed to be precise. He needed to play queen c7 check. And if the rook blocks, just like in the game, then you can swing down to c2, threatening the f2 pawn, guarding g6. No worries. Shouldn't be any problem at all to hold the draw here. Not at all. But instead, he erroneously went queen e5 check. And the problem here is the fact that, so currently he has got two dudes hanging. Alright? And so you want to go to squares where you are guarding them both. And that square would be c2. But if you did this right away, then rook c1, rook c7 maybe is a problem, which is why the engine wants us to go check first. And when I pull back, then we rather go, sorry, king h1, then we come back to c2 now, and if king g2, then queen f7. And now we are fine. The big difference is that if we go here, then now I can just check down the queen and see ya, wouldn't want to be ya. That check is a life changer. hence the need for check, forcing the white king onto white square. And he went queen e5, and after rook g3, all of a sudden, there is no way to defend both hanging pieces. What the poor thing must have missed was that he must have seen it, and he thought that queen h5 check was bringing the heavies off of the board, but unfortunately it only gets the black queen off the board, not so much the white one. Absolute tragedy. Now, the other game. Hello Hikaru takes on g6, and Hikaru against Gukesh. And Gukesh starts thinking here and plays a move that I tried my absolute best to figure out why he did this. And I don't want to sound condescending because I'm a nobody compared to him, and I know nothing about chess compared to him. But I know as much as we prefer to trade toward the center unless we have a very good reason to do this. And I tried to find that reason. I really did. And I just could not for the life of me come up with anything. Now this position is looking very, very innocuous. You couldn't possibly believe that this is losable. But actually, upon reflection, I think that if I play this against myself, I would win with white more times than how many times I would manage to hold it with black. Meaning the winning chances are actually far greater than the drawing chances. And the reason for that is because despite or because of the presence of the dark squared bishops, the black king can never really meaningfully become part of any endgame scenario, and therefore the absence of queens is not going to offer any remedy whatsoever to black. And that was actually a theme and evident in the game when we got to this scenario. And here I'm like, I looked up on the engine who said to me, play queen e5. And I imagined what would happen if I took with black. And I assumed, and I was correct by the way, that the correct recapture is rook, not pawn. Which is very weird to hear that. But actually the pawn recapture is not that good, because after bishop c5 I can blockade the pawn and the rook now gets sufficient counterplay and the white king gets cut off. And if I push my luck too far, then the bishop can close in on that pawn. I can't go because it gets lost. Now the king can easily approach the center. It's not clear at all. But with rook takes e5, now I can just go in e7, which glues the bishop forever to b6. And this king can never, ever, ever come out of here. And on top of all of this, white has got a myriad of ways to bite into the pawns and try to find the weakness. Absolutely incredibly, according to the machine, this endgame is plus 2.2. That means that the engine looks upon it as if white had 2 extra pawns. And that's just breathtakingly, immensely amazing. It's actually well worth investigating what kind of plans can white pursue here. I'm not going to go into that, but I want to show you something that is very, very interesting. I was curious about one thing, and that was that what would it be like if we took back with the other pawn? And so I set up this position manually, fed it to the engine, and 2.2 plus 2.2 drops down to 0.8 with a pawn on f7 instead of h7. Meaning from dead lost, we move into a very well within drawable margin if we move the pawn across here. And by the way Hikaru converted this, and I'm just gonna zip through this without too much commentary, was incredible. So this is what he did first. He created this pawn formation, which on surface looks like, oh, he weakened his king. No, he strengthened it. What he did by doing this was that he created light squared weaknesses. Well, guess what Gukesh doesn't have pieces to control with? The dark squares. You can give a check, knock yourself out. And that's it. That's it, forget about it. This king is rock solid. You can't touch me. Not even close. And I'm threatening, by the way, h5. Game-winning threat. That's so much about the relative weakness of the kings, yeah? Then they were flirting with the idea of a queen trade. It has been dodged. And then he's just building it up, tucking the king away. A few moves to save some time. And then comes the centralization. Now rook e6 is a threat. h5 is a threat. You can see that the white piece trio works in absolute perfect harmony and unison, whereas the black pieces do not cooperate at all. Bishop c5, neither here nor there, and here h5 would already have been more or less decisive. Yep, and there we go. h5, check, king back, bishop d6. Again, not much of a difference. The bishop is a better defender on d6 as much as it covers the e7 penetration, but now not even a shadow of a threat to be found here. And the pressure on g6 is just unbearable. Again, none of this would have happened with a pawn here. At all. Rook f6, check, back. And from here on out, it is beautiful carnage. Granted, Gukesh plays a few suboptimal moves, but the finish, hello, it's insane. Bishop e4, g5, and that is the final nail in the coffin, where we take queen check. And again, look at that king. It looks like it's so vulnerable, right? One more check. That, and that's it. See ya, bishop g2 blocks. Rook f7, g6, and yeah, now the black king is just utterly, helplessly indefensible. And after bishop d5, Gukesh threw in the towel. Your engines already here indicate unstoppable mates. The queens are coming off, and bishop f7 is going to win the bishop on f8, and with that the game is over. So these were the tragic events of, well, from a certain point of view, obviously Hikaru was very happy, and I'm guessing that Arjun was too, but you can't help but think that this was just a round of absolute rotten luck and a very good lesson about how to handle opposite colored bishops. I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. Please don't forget to like, to sub, to leave a comment, do the usual things, super thank me if you can. Now I will see you in the next video soon. Thanks for watching.